Welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen, the Triple Play Fantasy Football Show. Let's go.
All that time saved without the 30-second countdown, David.
It's good to be back. It's good to be back with y'all. Oh my goodness. I think the 30-second countdown's probably done. But I will say, we were talking, it's been like 4 months or so since we all last recorded together. Y'all are as beautiful as ever. John, you're a TV star now. Orioles broadcast. How did you find that? Was it
ironic? Well, it was our good friend Steven who lives in Boston. I was not on the Masson stream. I was on the Nesson stream. So got a no free ad MLB TV app free trial, and I watched all of the Masson broadcast to not be in it, and then had to watch the Nesson broadcast.
Wait, John, can I say my favorite part is when Nicole looks at you like, okay, go, and then you stand up.
I go because I was waiting for it, and I wasn't sure how quickly it was going to happen because I had just gotten a beer that they didn't open all the way, so this was my one shot.
You were also out of the frame when you started chugging it.
I know, because I stood up. I'm too tall. I mean, I didn't know. If I had a live view, maybe I would have been able to adjust, but live and learn.
I'm sorry you're so tall, John.
It's a good problem to have, but Johnny's a TV star now, and we're back in the saddle. The football show is going to be back weekly every single week from here until the end of the football season. So you'll be seeing a lot of our faces again. We already got some people hanging out in the comments. Always love to see that. My buddy Matt checking in. Howdy, fellas. I'm a biased Colts fan, and for the picks we've had, I'm really liking the picks that were made. Well, we're going to get into some of the Colts stuff. Before we get into the draft winners and losers, though, I got to shout out our partner in crime, our good friends over at Fantasy Points Media Group. Now, if you don't know about Fantasy Points Media Group, if you use code TriplePlay22, you'll receive a 10% off with your subscription discount to Fantasy Points. And you're wondering what you get over there if you do choose to subscribe. Well, Scott Barrett's annual post-draft presser review, it's gold, ladies and gentlemen. Not silver, it's gold. He spent 48 hours grinding post-draft pressers to find the most actionable fantasy intel. That's the type of stuff you need to get a leg up on your fantasy leagues in May. I'm telling you, got to listen to that. Of course, not just that. They have the best rookie rankings in the business. Obviously, the rookie drafts are starting now and post-draft, so you can get all the information you need for that over at Fantasy Points. And are you into Underdog? Have you ever heard of Underdog? One of the best ball places you can do right now. They're partnered with Fantasy Points Media Group. And if you use code Fantasy Points, and it's FANTASYPTS, they'll match your deposit up to $100 if you use that code. So you could basically get $200 for $100 over at Underdog. It's a blast. Just make sure you check out Fantasy Points. They're doing big things over there, and we're very proud to be partnered with them. So check out Fantasy Points. And I think that's Teddy, right?
Yes, sir. Underdog talk.
Teddy killing it with the interviews. That's our guy. But you guys clicked on this video today because we've got our draft day winners and losers. And if I could find, there we go. Our NFL draft winners and losers, there's a lot of them. Was this the craziest draft, Brad, that you think you've ever been a part of with all the trades and everything that went down?
I don't know if it was the craziest, but I was definitely the most surprised seeing no QBs in the first round for the most part. And then that big, NBA style superstar trade. I was just kind of blown away with that one.
We're seeing a change in the wide receiver landscape. It's become such a more important position in a pass happy NFL that teams are basically looking at hey, we can't afford to pay you $100+ million, especially after you get a certain point in your career. So we're just going to go draft younger first round wide receivers and trade off what we can. Basically, you saw the Titans do that. They traded A.J. Brown and they brought in the same type of player speculation if he'll be nearly as good in Treylon Burks. John, what were your thoughts?
I was just going to say, eventually that's no longer going to work. I think people were spoiled by the past few years having a couple great wide receivers, put up MVP-ish numbers as rookies and stuff like that, which that's just not sustainable, because that's otherwise, if every receiver is good, no receiver is good. So at some point, we're going to stop getting these generational talents coming through every year.
Yeah, I think it's something that's been very interesting to see how it plays out. And our buddy Sports Wikipedia, who's a real awesome dude, checking in, hanging out with him. And then Matt also adds in the Jags messed up the wide receiver market
Trent
up.
Baalke did. Trent Baalke.
Tristan, no, maybe Christian.
There's nothing wrong with paying my man Zayman Jones. Everybody loves him.
Christian Kirk's agent needs to be everybody's agent. I don't know who it is, but he got him paid. And that's the whole thing that kind of was the chain reaction that started it all. $21 million a year for him. But yeah, Matt's right on the money with that. But let's start out with our winners from the NFL draft. And what we're going to do is each of us are going to give 3 winners, and then we're going to give our 3 losers. Let's start off with Brad up top. Who are your 3 winners, and why do you have them in the winners category?
Yeah, man. So first off, I'm going to go with the Eagles. I was blown away with what they did. Their GM was doing Madden-style trades. They essentially drafted A.J. Brown with their first-round pick. Like, it's
that Golden Corral. He's the big winner, yes.
I look at what DeAndre Hopkins did for Kyler Murray, and it kind of propelled him into being an elite QB. And I think that's what Jalen Hurts is going to have with A.J. Brown. I have Jalen Hurts as my QB4 this year because of his rushing upside, and I have A.J. Brown as my wide receiver 9. So right now, this is the best team in the NFC East to me. And then another one, I had the Ravens. They were the winners for me because they decided they wanted to go back to having an identity instead of trying to be balanced. And this is a team that wants to and will likely lead the team in rushing, or lead the league in rushing rather, and control the clock. If you can take the lead early, you can beat them, but good luck. Lamar's the lead on the ground, and we've never seen anything like him. I have him as my QB2 this year.
Whoa. What about Tyler Huntley? You made a video about Tyler Huntley.
I did. Well, they didn't. It looks like they're not going to trade him. Everybody's staying pat. Lamar's mad, but he's going to stay. He's going to stay on the team. So if he's going to be there, he's one of the best in the league. And then last, I had my Seahawks as the winner. I like the Seahawks.
Your
draft.
Seahawks?
Yeah, man. I like them. I like them for the same sort of reason that I like the Ravens draft. The Ravens know what they do well, and they're going to lean into it. After trading Russell Wilson, the Seahawks know they won't do much of anything well. So they're trying to build a team out so that they can make a run with a cheap QB in the future. So they took a lineman with their top 10 pick and another with their 3rd rounder. They took a linebacker with their 2nd rounder. They added Kenneth Walker, who may be the best running back in college football, which is a great idea because Chris Carson may never play again. And they also added a couple corners and some developmental wide receivers. So they could have reached for a QB, but they didn't. So they're kind of going to embrace the tank here, and I like that.
Oh, gosh, Brad, that was music to my ears.
And
Albert's
right on it. Rashad Bateman, I don't know, John, I don't know if that was one of yours.
He's a loser.
No, Rashad Bateman? He's a big winner.
Yeah.
Debate this. Go.
The Ravens drafted 2 tight ends. Lamar has what? Let me look this up real quick. Lamar Jackson has completed 49.5% of all his passes to tight ends. They have Mark Andrews, and they drafted 2 more tight ends in this past draft. They have a run-first offense. They have linemen that are going to be able to run block as well as pass block. I think they're going to shift this offense to just throw into the tight ends and running like triple options and that kind of style. And I just don't think, with trading away Hollywood Brown, who was his number 1, Rashad Bateman has all the talent in the world, but it looks like they want to be, a tight end and option style offense. And I think that leaves him out.
Now, the thing I'll disagree with, though, is basically Hollywood Brown and Mark Andrews were like a 55% target share combined last year with the Ravens. That target share that Hollywood Brown has to go to a receiver.
No,
I don't think in the sense of that the Ravens.
Mark Andrews also had a career year for receiving yards.
The Ravens draft a lot. Brad, the Ravens draft a lot of tight ends because they use them to block. But they drafted
receiving tight ends.
Isaiah Likely's a receiving tight end, but the other tight end that they drafted, I'll have to look up the name again.
Charlie Kolar out of Iowa State. He's a receiving tight end.
He's going to be more the blocking tight end, and Isaiah Likely, I think, lines up more as a receiver. I agree.
Let's also be real.
I'll tell you what, they didn't draft a guy in the third, fourth round to be a blocker. He's catching passes.
I mean, Nick Boyle has basically been a blocker for them, and they're going. I think he's going to be.
Tight ends suck besides Matt or besides Mark Andrews.
So let me ask you, Brad. Over or under, let's say 70 catches for Rashad Bateman. Over or under? Under.
I think fantasy people get way too into target share sometimes and realize that it's also a game where you need complementary players alongside you, because can Rashad Bateman play the number one corner week in, week out, play in, play out? It's up in the air.
Great question.
But he's a former first-round pick. They're not kicking the tires on the first-round pick after.
And they didn't draft another wide receiver in the entire draft, which I think also says a lot about what they think about Rashad Bateman too.
So Dave, I think you could be right. Like my take is essentially that they're shifting their style into what they do best, and it's not passing to wide receivers. If they do decide to pass to wide receivers, I think Bateman's in the great position. But with their draft, I have nothing to indicate that they're going to do anything but run more or pass to the tight ends.
I'm going to put in the comments for people to comment on over or under 70 catches for Rashad Bateman. John, while I put that in the comments, why don't you tell us your three winners from the draft?
Yeah, I mean, number one winner is Trey Burks. I mean, he pretty much just steps into an easily defined role that matches his skill set right off the bat. It's not going to be a mismatch in scheme. It's not going to be, you rarely see that somebody can step in so seamlessly to have such a defined role immediately. And that's just set in stone. He's AJ Brown now. He is the new AJ Brown. Then you got Jalen Hurts. Brad touched on the Eagles, but I mean, it just raises his ceiling passing wise, and his fantasy ceiling was already so high just because of how he runs the ball. So if he improves slightly as a passer and keeps getting those 1 yard QB sneak touchdowns, he's Brad's QB4. I mean, come on. And then this is going to go a little bit against the grain, and it's less fantasy important or anything else, but I think Sam Howell had a good landing spot in that there's nobody that the Washington fans like more than their backup quarterbacks, and it's why Tyler Heineke was able to be so loved. So he wasn't picked high. He wasn't picked on a reach or anything like that, so there's no pressure, and he does have a fair shot to get some game at the end of the season, and because it's going to be everybody's favorite player there, they're going to be clamoring for him to start, after Carson Wentz does his Carson Wentz. And this is just a fun little aside. A real winner is the Raiders GM, because he was not talked about during the first two rounds of the draft for the first time in the past 4 or 5 years for a reach.
That's a notable point. It's true. I think it's the fact that they cleaned house and that it's a whole new thing going on in Las Vegas. And our buddy Matt says way over 70, he's going to have more than 90 catches or so if he stays healthy. So I'm with you, Matt. I'm 100% with you. I think he takes a huge target share and goes above and beyond this year.
That's got to put what's like the top 1% of receptions for a wide receiver every year. I got to imagine that line is like,
well, now it's different in 17 games compared to 16 too.
But even last year, even 17 games, what is that if you had to imagine?
I would say 120.
120, you think?
So Michael Thomas has the record with, I think, 149.
Yeah.
So we're saying top 1% of the league. I'd say in that 120, 130 range.
Between Cooper grab last year? Cooper Cup? What did Cooper Cup grab last year?
Let me check right now.
I would say it's between 110 and 120 would be the number one.
Okay.
It would be my initial way of saying for what
Cooper Cup had 145 last year.
Yeah, 145 last year.
Looking at it from that perspective,
I didn't realize he was so close to the record. I didn't about that at all.
Me neither.
I know, but you still think they would have hyped it up.
Looking at it from that perspective, though, Dave, I think 70 is a nice line. That's essentially just saying your middle of the pack of wide receiver ones.
We'll have to see what Vegas gives it.
Matt said all you need is 6 catches a game to get that, which is doable.
It's doable, but I just don't see that in this offense.
Matt and I are on the same page. I think you're right on it, Matt, for sure. Doc, what about you? Why don't you give your winners for us?
So the first is Hollywood Brown. I mean, we were talking about the wide receivers that wanted to get traded, and his name wasn't speculated. So He gets his trade
Doc,
request.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but Sports Wikipedia comes first.
Okay.
He said, where would you grade what would you grade the Jets draft? I think it's got to be an A.
A+.
Right? I mean, their first round alone.
And A, because also the standard that has been there prior.
I mean, they crushed this draft as much.
Oh
as
yeah, it's like
team.
an A+ in comparison to like previous years.
They didn't pick a quarterback early.
It wasn't just that. I mean, obviously they got a top 15 player potentially in Jermaine Johnson in the 20s that they traded up to get, but they also jumped the Texans for Breece Hall in the second round. They purposely jumped 2 picks to go in front of them to get him. And I think these are just small moves that people don't realize. It's like those are very big for that type of organization and for the team with Zach Wilson that needs weapons, and we'll get to him later. But I think we're all A for sure. And then Teddy says, I have to ask, as a diehard Cowboys fan, how bad did we mess up?
They're in my draft losers. We can talk about that.
Oh, that's a tease. All right, Brad. Well, you can kick off those in a couple minutes here. But Doc, go ahead and why don't you finish?
I want to hear Eric talk about why Hollywood Brown wanted to leave the Ravens.
He just didn't get around the ball. But I mean, Hollywood Brown.
That's what you were saying, Brad.
I mean, he also wants to get paid. He also wants to get paid. So this is why he's the winner. DeAndre Hopkins in his lone healthy season with the Cardinals, 160 targets. He's missing the first 6 games. Marquise Brown is going back to the quarterback he had in college. So is he going to get 160 targets? Probably not, but I think there's an outside chance for that.
And he gets all of Christian Kirk's valuable targets.
And I think about this from the Jamal Adams perspective also. Seahawks traded for Jamal Adams, didn't sign him to an extension, and then right away, and then had to pay him the top safety money because they already gave up the capital for him. Hollywood Brown is in the driver's seat. If they don't sign him now, he can command whatever he wants. Otherwise, it's a lost cause. My second is Isaiah Spiller. Justin Jackson is gone from San Diego or from Los Angeles. The one game Eckler missed last year, Justin Jackson had 36.2 fantasy points. So I think he's getting in a great handcuff spot to Austin Eckler. And the last is Kenneth Walker. So Rashad Penny signed a 1-year, $5 million deal. I think the Seahawks are going to run him into the ground. They signed him prior to Russell Wilson. So I think Kenneth Walker saves a year of wear and tear on his body with a team that's going nowhere. And next year he'll step into the lead back role with a better team. I
can't disagree with any of those. Our buddy Rams for Life checking in here. Traded A.J. Brown and a 2023 second for Brady and Eckler.
That's a great trade for both sides.
Win now.
I do, yeah.
So the 2023 draft is loaded. A lot more offensive talent in that draft next year than this one. So to be able to get a second in that draft, plus you get Brady. Who's your
quarterback now?
He traded A.J. Brown in 2023 second. I think A.J. Brown's value goes down actually with the Eagles. I think he's going to still be really good.
I think that's a bad take.
But Brady and Eckler, that's a great win.
You're giving too much credit to Tannehill. Like he's not. Can you really say he's that much better than Hurts?
No, I think he's more accurate than Hurts.
Yeah,
but he's not a good mentor.
Oh, he's got Herbert as his QB1 too. Is this a super flex league? If this is a super flex league, holy moly. It's a
great haul.
My goodness gracious.
Yeah, that's a great trade for both sides, honestly. I love that.
Yeah, if this Rams, let us know if this is a super flex league. I think you did really, really well with that. It is super flex, just making sure. Yeah. I mean, Brady and Herbert as your 2 quarterbacks in a super flex league. Tight end premium with Mark Andrews. We just want to crown him the champion right now because that's a freaking nasty
it's
squad.
Like a 3-team league.
No, he did well. That's great. Yeah, and then will the Bills win a Super Bowl with Josh Allen as their quarterback? I can see the Bills having the best record. I think they can.
He's my QB1 this year.
Spoiler, Brad, not a hot take at the QB1 position.
Oh, yeah, no hot take this time.
You didn't put Geno up there?
No, not yet.
And it's a 12-team league. Our buddy Rams is crushing.
That's chess, not checkers.
He's crushing.
Who's your draft winners, David?
My draft winners start off with Zach Wilson. We touched on him before. Look at the weapons he has around him. He's got Breece Hall now in the backfield with Michael Carter, who's he's not incredible, but he's a good backup running back, third down back to have in that offense. He has Elijah Moore, Corey Davis, Garrett Wilson, as their 1 through 3 wide receivers. They signed 2 tight ends in the offseason, and in CJ Uzoma and Tyler Conklin. They also drafted Jeremy Ruckert from Ohio State. He has literally, I think, arguably the best collection in terms of depth of weapons of any quarterback in the league. But
you could say he's a loser because he has expectations now.
Let's not go that high.
I'm kidding.
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
Yeah,
basically, the Jets said,
the
"Look,
best
we're gonna..."
weapons because he has Tyler Conklin. Are you kidding me?
I'm saying the depth of the weapons, the depth that he has of weapons. I'm not saying they're the best in terms of this every individual one.
A lot of
but
Raxton star.
And they've spent in their offensive line the last couple of years too. So everything is there for him to succeed. It's going to be on him, and I think that's what they wanted to be able to tell. Are you our franchise quarterback? We've given you everything you could want. Now it's on you. So I think he's a winner from that. The Texans, Dameon Pierce, who was drafted in the 4th round, he's a winner because he's arguably in the best situation. Because if you look at the Houston Texans, John, could you tell me the top 2 running backs on the Texans depth chart ahead of him? If I had to ask you,
it's probably not anymore, but Philip Lindsay and Rex Burkhead.
Well, you got one of them. It's Rex Burkhead and Marlon Mack.
Marlon Mack's good though.
Marlon Mack and Rex Burkhead are the only 2 running backs ahead of him at this point.
Let me find out. I need to go trade for Marlon Mack.
Yeah, he is a 1,000-yard rusher.
Yeah, but he also still has coming off that Achilles injury. Rex Burkhead is 32 years old. So Dameon Pierce, even though he's never had more than 15 carries in a game in college, he's a very explosive runner, very physical runner. And I think I wouldn't be shocked by mid-season if he's the RB1 by a landslide for this team. So I think he was a real winner. Also, a Tim Boyle draft winner.
Tim Boyle!
Taking a quarterback.
I should have said that. Our boy, TV12.
And
check out Eric's interview with Tim Boyle.
Yeah, and anyone that drafted by the Texans is the best situation, but they immediately have a starting position. Yes, that's true. They were the only team on PFF that you looked and they said draft needs. They said everything. In terms of everybody else had specific positions, the Texans were everything. So you're 100% right about that. My last winner is Gabe Davis because the Bills did not use a pick on a wide receiver until in the later rounds in day 3 with Khalil Shakir, who is going to be like an Isaiah McKenzie in that offense. Jamison Crowder's there too. I get it. But I think Gabe Davis is now going to be the solidified second
the way
wide
you're
receiver.
Talking about him, Jamison Crowder and Tyler Conklin can make their own super team. The way you're talking about
Gabe Davis is going to step into that number 2 role and I think really succeed. I don't know how I'm going to rank him yet, but I think he won because they didn't take a receiver really high in day 1 or 2. So I like that for him. Let's go real quick now. Brad, why don't you give us your 3 losers?
All right, I'm going to start off with Washington. For the past 3 years, this team has acted like they're a piece away, a single QB away from competing for a Super Bowl. They tried Fitzpatrick, they tried Alex Smith, they tried Heineke, they're trying Wentz, and they had a chance to take a QB of the future in Malik Willis, and they passed on it to take a worse wide receiver than the Chiefs took or the Packers took much later. I don't understand the thought process with this team. On top of that, Curtis Samuel and Dotson have redundant skill sets, so I'm not even sure the first-round pick is going to win out the position battle. I'm not excited for any fantasy outlooks of any player on Washington after this offseason. Dallas is my other one. They lost Amari Cooper, Blake Jarwin, Cedric Wilson, and have Gallup coming off surgery. They decided not to take a wide receiver until the late 3rd round and a TE until the 4th round. I'm not sure either will crack the field. I'm curious when you see what the Eagles have done, why you would make this decision to kind of bulk on all the skill positions in your drafts. And that said, I do think we can expect a monster year from CeeDee Lamb because Dak is going to throw for 4,000 yards. But outside of him, I'm not really excited for them either. And then lastly, the Giants. I just don't know what their plan is. I think they're simply trying to draft the best players available because they don't know if they're going to have to blow everything up in a year and let Jones and Barkley walk. But if that's the case, maybe you should take a developmental quarterback and a running back, and they whiffed on all of that. So also, if they're going to treat Wan'Dale Robinson like they treated Kadarius Toney, I don't know what the point in drafting like a gadget, speedy wide receiver is. So I'm curious to see how it all shakes out for them because they seem like they have no direction.
The Giants have spent the most money in the wide receiver position of any team in the NFL. And
all your losers were NFC East teams.
They were.
what does that say?
It's the Eagles to lose in my head.
Yeah, I think the one thing is with Dallas, obviously Jalen Brunson, we have Tolbert. We have to see. Thinking of basketball,
Jalen Brunson.
Yeah, Jalen Tolbert. We have to see how he does. He's supposed to take over the slot role for Cedric Wilson. But yeah, I don't disagree with any of those. The Giants, I don't know what they're doing. I think they wanted their own guys in there. Who knows if Kadarius Toney gets traded? But
they fired their scouting personnel after the draft. Like that's
did they really?
Wild. Yeah, it's wild. Wow. Like I don't know what their plan is at all.
That's bad. All right, John. Well, who are your 3 losers?
So my first one was a fortunate spelling mistake or an autocorrect in my notes. Michael Crater Jr. because his value's cratering right now with the running back they got in the draft. I mean, last year he was surprising, and I think that's the best way to describe him. He was surprisingly effective and showed flashes, but now he's no longer going to be the solidified RB1. I also have Justin Fields. I mean, they practically just gave him no help receiver-wise. It just seems silly.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just a natural progression. You get a young quarterback, pair him up with a young receiver, and they can grow together. Don't really know why they wouldn't want to do it. And then along a similar note, I have Patrick Mahomes because they were replacing Tyreek Hill. And Sky Moore, I'm sure, is going to be everybody's favorite wide receiver in the online and on Twitter. But there's a reason he was like the 7th or 8th wide receiver taken. You have these,
beast, Johnny.
There was like 6 options of generational receivers, and you pick somebody who's 5'10" and runs a 4.4. I mean,
but they also added Juju Smith-Schuster, Marquez Valdes-Scantling.
All right. This
Justin
isn't the
Oh, so we got the super team between Marquez Valdes-Scantling, Tyler Conklin, and Jamison Crowder.
Throw stuff at the wall
that's a Super Bowl
sticks.
winner. I'm just saying they're trying to replace production with just worse players.
All right, we'll see. I like Sky Moore, but we'll talk about rookies in another episode.
Of course you do. And I'm sure a bunch of other people will.
Johnny. Sky Moore is cool.
He is. Go ahead, Doc. Who are your 3 winners?
So
losers.
So for me, rookie quarterbacks, like what we've seen this offseason is that more veteran and star power quarterbacks are forcing their way out. And as opposed to teams that would give up multiple firsts for a rookie contract, they're now willing to give that for star quarterbacks because they're in a more win now territory. So I think we're going to see less teams trading up for rookies in the future and pressing teams to see if they can get a quarterback that's unhappy on their current team. So that's my first loser. The second is Drake London. I like his talent long-term, but I just think first year, I mean, the Falcons,
Drake London.
Yeah, the Falcons are going through a rebuild. Like Mariota isn't the most accurate passer. There is a graphic, the last 3 wide receivers taken in the first round by the Falcons, Calvin Ridley, Julio Jones, Roddy White. That's big shoes to fill.
And that means he's going to be good.
Yeah. Howdy, Roddy White.
That's a lot to. If the quarterback play
you sold
was better,
me on taking him now.
I wouldn't have him be a loser if there was better quarterback play. And the 49ers, biggest losers because they look at how much they traded last year. Any team that maybe even thought about trading for Jimmy G, they got QBs in the draft. And any team that thought about trading for Debo, they got wide receivers. So the 49ers have a Jimmy G that they can't trade that's making $25 million, an unhappy Debo that we know isn't going to play for the team. And now there's less suitors for both of them. 49ers, biggest losers.
Well, Debo Samuel, at the moment they say they'll trade him, there will be suitors for him.
Wait, is Debo holding out?
I guarantee Debo does
Albert's
not play
reading
for the
my
49ers.
mind. Albert's he's on my list.
Unless we pay Debo $22+ million a year, he's gone.
I will say before I get to Gibson and the other 2 losers I have, that there was 2 reports that one, the Lions offered a first and a 3rd round pick for Debo Samuel, which was the 12th pick.
They should have taken that.
With their 1st round pick and that for Debo, that was turned down. Then the Eagles jumped up to try to take Jamison Williams, and they got sniped by the Lions in front of them. So they basically jumped up then and basically did their backup plan, which was get AJ Brown. They were trying to get Jamison Williams, and they got beat to it. So then they went their backup option, and they had to trade for AJ Brown, like in the works, if they wanted to go to that. So that's what they did. But let me go to my 3 real quick. My 3 losers. Number 1, I have is Ryan Tannehill. He lost one of the best wide receivers in AJ Brown. They also drafted his replacement in Malik Willis, and he will not be telling him how to play quarterback in the NFL. He's going to just have to learn.
I do think that was a little sniped out of context.
Yeah, I have to be careful
because he said
it.
right after, if he does learn something, then that's great.
Real quick, before
like
I give my last
literally
two,
just took off a whole sentence.
Do you guys have a favorite player picked in the first round?
Kenny Pickett.
That's interesting.
I just feel like it's a good fit.
I think Jordan Davis for the Eagles is going to be a monster.
Every single wide receiver that the Chiefs weren't able to get that's going to be better and was regarded as way better.
You're such a Chiefs hater.
I love it. I miss doing this.
And then my last two losers,
Antonio Gibson. All those picks, and they didn't get a generational talent.
Antonio Gibson, which our buddy Albert brought up. Obviously now with Brian Robinson there.
It's the same.
I'm sorry?
He's not a loser. His stock is the same.
No, I mean, Brian Robinson's there now, who's going to, I think, be there more to take his goal line work. J.D. McKissick's there to take some passing down work.
Antonio Gibson's bigger than Brian Robinson.
Brian Robinson was still a master in college.
Right, but this is the NFL, and Antonio Gibson is bigger.
But I'm saying J.D. McKissick was never taking goal line work from.
Yeah, Antonio Gibson was.
But I'm saying there's now another running back that's bigger than J.D. McKissick that could take some goal line work away.
I think it's between Jared Patterson and Brian Robinson, who the third.
I will bet you Jared Patterson doesn't make the team.
It's probably possible.
That's Brad's RB12 for the year.
Yeah.
First off.
No, if you take a running back third round, you're expecting him to participate on your roster. But I don't think he's anything more than depth.
Washington also hosted a bunch of big name running backs, which to me, even just the act of doing that means they don't believe in Gibson long term. That's just my thoughts on it. But we'll see. And then the last guy, Devin Singletary, bringing in James Cook, who right now looks to be more of just a receiving back. But Devin Singletary's job security is far from guaranteed, as we've seen in the past. And having him be the third running back off the board behind the big two guys of Ken Walker and Breece Hall, that concerns me. So
he's Devin RB2 overall, Singletary.
No, I will not be drafting him unless he slips a good amount. I will not be drafting.
I feel like that like spells the Zach Moss experiment is over, though. I feel like they like Singletary, and that it's more of like we're not doing Zach Moss, Matt Breida anymore.
But I'm saying most leagues are now PPR, and James Cook being there is strictly going to take Singletary off the field.
Is he related to somebody famous?
Related to Dalvin.
Oh, wait, Brian Cook, former Lakers forward.
Oh, it could be that too.
Transition to basketball.
Quinn Cook?
Oh, I can't think of a
Daquan Cook.
You guys have any more?
Cookie Monster.
We're gonna get ready to sign off here. That was a good winners and losers. Last thing from our buddy Matt here. Do you think the Colts beat out the Texans in our division this year?
I do.
I have the Colts over the Texans as well.
Low key, maybe Jags. Low key, maybe Jags.
What about you, John?
I don't know. I would love to see the Colts choke away a playoff spot again, though.
The Colts have a basketball team for football players. They are so tall.
As long as Derrick Henry is on the Titans are the better team.
All right. Well, 3 on the Colts, 1 on the Titans. We'll see how it plays out. But that's gonna wrap up. We're happy to be back. Thanks everybody that was in the comments for the show. I think my favorite thing about doing live shows is being able to interact with people in the comments on YouTube. So thanks everybody for hanging out with us. We're going to be doing this every week, every Tuesday. So if you enjoyed it, please make sure you guys on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. We're actually 6 subs away from 2,000 subscribers. So it means a lot. Thank you guys so much. Make sure you guys leave a comment below.
Subscribe.
Yeah, for the little algorithm. And then if you guys are listening to the podcast, 5-star ratings and reviews are always appreciated. So thank you guys so much. We'll be back next week to break down. I think we're going to go division by division next week. So it's going to be fun. But until then, we're going to make like a bread truck. We're going to haul these buns. Catch you guys.